Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first in our seminar series this year for the International Network Against Witchcraft Accusations and Ritual Attacks. My name's Charlotte Baker and I'll be chairing today's session. I'm delighted to welcome Sarah Jack as our speaker. Sarah is the Executive Director of End Witch Hunts, and she's also been involved in advocacy against harmful practices related to witchcraft. And Sarah is going to tell us more about her work today and the work of the organisations that she collaborates with. So Sarah, we're really pleased to have you here. Thank you so much, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. I think you have some slides to share with us, so if you'd just like to set those up, that would be wonderful, and then we can get started.
Is that working?
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. So over to you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Charlotte, for the wonderful introduction. I am Sarah Jack. You already understand that literal witch hunts are happening right now in multiple countries. What I want to share is how End Witch Hunts in the United States contextualizes historical witch hunt patterns in modern advocacy. Let me be specific about a few reasons why historical education matters. Pattern recognition. Witch hunt mechanisms are remarkably consistent across centuries. Understanding how accusations spread in the 1600s help us predict and interrupt how they may spread today. Messaging power. When we show that the same country that experienced witch trials now considers them a grave injustice, it undermines arguments that witch accusations are culturally acceptable or that outsiders shouldn't intervene. There's long-term perspective. Historical cases show what happens decades and centuries after witch hunts. Without intervention, trauma and stigma persist for generations. 9 and 10 generations later, we're still here, still affected, still seeking justice. This shows that formal acknowledgement and exoneration, even much later, still matters to descendants and communities. Who is End Witch Hunts? End Witch Hunts formed in October of 2022. This is a Colorado, United States-based, all-volunteer-run nonprofit, and we launched when the community united under the Connecticut Witch Trial Exoneration Project. And you can learn more about that project at connecticutwitchtrials.org, and I will also talk more about that shortly. We are Connecticut author Beth Caruso and Coloradan Jen Stevenson and descendants Sarah Jack, Mary Bingham, and Josh Hutchinson. We're dedicated to educating the public about both historical and contemporary witchcraft persecution, and you can find our projects at endwitchhunts.org. The projects include video podcasts and live events, historical justice initiatives, public education through presentations and local events, global advocacy collaboration and research, and I will talk more about these efforts shortly. We operate 6 active projects together, spreading awareness, education, exoneration, justice, memorialization, and research. And those projects that are, those 6 projects are the Connecticut Witch Trial Exoneration Project, the Thing About Witch Hunt podcast, and the Thing About Salem podcast, the Massachusetts Witch Hunt Justice Project, and our End Spiritual and Ritual Abuse Initiative. I'm going to give you just a little bit of background about the witch trials in the American colonies. Alice Young of Windsor, Connecticut was the first person executed for witchcraft in the American colonies. She was hanged in Hartford on May 26, 1647, a full 45 years before the Salem witch trials. There are no records for her case. We don't know what the accusations were or what her trial was like. And these quotes here were noted in men's diaries, and that's what we have of her. We know her husband was treated by John Winthrop Jr. He was the governor of Connecticut and a physician. The Matthew Grant diary is where we got her name. Until diary was discovered, we only knew that one blank of Windsor was executed. John Winthrop Sr., the governor of Massachusetts, left her name out. Next, we're going to look at how the first execution led to a broader pattern of witch trials across Massachusetts and Connecticut through the colonial period. In Massachusetts, witch trials occurred between 1638 and 1693. During this period, at least 254 individuals were accused. Of these, 209 were complained of, implicated in court, questioned, arrested, or imprisoned. In total, 24 were executed by hanging, and one person was pressed to death. In colonial Connecticut, we had at least 49 people accused of witchcraft, 34 indicted, at least 11 were hanged. Due to severe incompleteness of records, the true toll cannot yet be established, and there's limited court records. As I told you, Alice Young was the first person convicted of witchcraft in the American colonies, and she was hanged in Connecticut, and there's no records. It's important to note that the Salem witch trials, which happened in 1692 and 1693, unfolded years after the execution of the first 16 people. While Salem had no trial records, many other records were preserved, which is why it became so well known. But as you can see, the persecution of accused witches in the American colonies began much earlier and extended beyond Salem. I just wanted to show you, this is Salem this past October. It is now the witch city, Halloween capital of the US. So while it does have this rich witch trial history and heritage, there's much more cultural and pop culture witch meaning to the area now, and that is how crowded it gets at the beginning of October. I am a witch trial descendant and the founding director of End Witch Hunts. Okay. I'm going to start to build some context for you why I'm here talking to you and what we've been doing together here in the United States. It is Descendant-Led, and we use the podcasts and educational platforms to grow advocacy against witch hunts. Oops, I just gave you a peek at my family tree. That's what's next. Okay. There is something that's different now than in the colonial era. We have, as a world, more resources and power to intervene, and we can make a difference our ancestors couldn't. This takes all of us, me, you here with me, all of us. So I want to share what we actually do through the initiatives. We launched our first podcast to work on our Connecticut advocacy. We wanted to get the innocent people in Connecticut acknowledged, and we hope to get an apology. This was a significant milestone in restoring dignity to victims here in the US. Before this effort, there had not been an apology given to witch trial victims formally. And now we're developing similar justice projects in other states, where we have another active justice project in Massachusetts, which I'm going to speak about. And we've also testified in Maryland. There was one woman who was hanged for witchcraft in Maryland. We have 2 weekly podcasts, The Thing About Witch Hunts and The Thing About Salem. These are video podcasts. They feature expert discussions that dive deep into the historical witch trials and their modern implications, making this history more accessible to broader audiences. We have had over 150 specialized experts on the podcast since 2022, and many of them are human rights advocates. Our podcasts are downloaded in over 100 countries around the world. What makes our work unique is that it is descendant-led. We're not just academics or historians observing from a distance. Those are important and part of our work too. But we have personal connections to this history, which drives our commitment to the justice and education. And I want to start with showing you the faces of descendants. The oldest picture here at the top was my 5th great grandmother. Her name was Charlotte Russell Adams, and she was a 4th great granddaughter of women who were hanged in Salem. Her daughter Ida, her daughter Hazel, her son Nate, that was my grandfather, my mother Sue, and then me. So that's a look at descendants. And these faces descend from 2 women who were hanged in Salem, Rebecca Nurse and Mary Esty. Also, the other leaders in our group are descendants. Mary Bingham and Josh Hutchinson are on our board, and they are also descendants of Mary Esty. The three of us discovered that shared ancestry after we started working together on the Connecticut Witch Trial Project. Mary descends from three women who died in Salem: Sarah Wilds, Mary Esty, and Susanna Martin. And Josh descends from Mary and from the man who signed the first complaint against Tituba, Sarah Good, and Sarah Osborne. Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne were hanged. Both Josh and Mary were co-founders of the original Connecticut Project, along with Beth Caruso and a retired police officer, Tony Grigo, and I'll show them on a later slide. Jod is our lead podcast producer and webmaster. Rebecca Nurse is significant because she was never forgotten by her family. And we know that because in 1885, nearly 200 years after her execution, Rebecca's descendants erected a monument on the family homestead in Danvers. And this, to my knowledge, is the first monument to an accused witch in America and possibly the first monument anywhere in the world. If there's an earlier one, I want to hear about it. I know there are some very ancient monument type memorials, but they might not be tied to a real person, or we don't know who they are for. But we do know that Rebecca's family put this monument up. And here's a picture from 1885 from a family reunion of descendants. Her quotes are preserved on documents, and they compel me deeply. She is quoted as saying, "I can say before my eternal Father that I am innocent, and God will clear my innocency." And that was March 24th during an examination in 1692. So she said she was innocent. She believed she was innocent and that God knew she was innocent. She also said later in June, "I humbly beg that I may have liberty to manifest it to the world, partly by the means above said." And these quotes together compel me to share her innocency with the world, because I feel like I am carrying on what she tried to do with her voice there when she was in court. She is known, her homestead still stands. There is the same monument in that picture that you saw in the old picture. That's Leo Igwe, my friend and advocate to Nigeria, standing there with me. This was his first trip to Salem. It was also my first trip to Salem. So I'm there at my ancestors' monument for the first time, and it was really special to share that time with Leo. This is maintained as a historic site, and thousands of visitors learn about Rebecca's story every year. She was 71 years old, possibly hard of hearing, and deeply religious. 39 neighbors signed a petition testifying to her good character, including Joshua Hutchinson's grandfather. She was held in prison. She was searched for witch marks or witch teats, and the belief was that a witch would suckle a devil familiar with a hidden teat. The jury initially found her not guilty, but under pressure from the magistrates, they reconvened and then condemned her. Then, after the king appointed governor, Sir William Phipps, reprieved her, he withdrew a reprieve from her. So 2 times they changed her outcome on her, but she was hanged on July 19th, 1692. And there is a book written about her by Dan Gagnon that I can direct you to if you're interested in that history. She's significant because she's a character in Arthur Miller's Crucible, which premiered on Broadway in 1953 and became one of the most frequently produced American plays. It's performed in high schools and theaters worldwide in a 1996 film adaptation. In Miller's version, Rebecca Nurse is portrayed as a 72-year-old moral anchor of the community, deeply religious, respected, and a voice of reason, trying to temper the hysteria. Her refusal to confess to witchcraft, even when offered her life in exchange, becomes a pivotal dramatic moment that establishes the moral framework of the play. However, it's important to understand that this emphasis on choosing between a confession and execution was Miller's invention. It is not historical reality. Confession did not save accused witches in the American colonies. While Rebecca Nurse was executed in the Crucible, it did bring important attention to the witch trials, in that he took significant liberties, but he did shape how millions of people understand the Salem witch trials. And it's a dramatization, not a document. Oh my goodness, I can't spit the word out today. I'm so sorry. It could be about what the time of day is for me. I don't know. Not a documentary. Not a documentary. This highlights why our work is important, and separating historical fact from these theatrical fiction is really important. So she does have a historical reality and a modern legacy. We know she was 71. She was a respected member of her church, and she would have been the only one that had been found innocent. Everyone who was tried was found guilty ultimately in Salem. Over time, she's become a representation of important themes: the pious elder destroyed by false accusation, the community's realization that they'd gone too far, innocence exposing the corruption of a system, and generational family trauma, because her sisters, Mary Esty and Sarah Cloyce, were also accused. What makes her story so powerful is that it is grounded in a real person whose life genuinely embodied these tragic elements. Her story inspires our work today, and it matters because she has public recognition. Memorial spaces and formal acknowledgement have lasting power. We follow the pattern her descendants established centuries ago, keeping stories alive and ensuring remembrance. But wait, I have more witch trial ancestors in my blood. Mary Esty was Rebecca's sister. Rebecca and Mary had grandchildren who married, and that's why I descend to both of them. Mary was also arrested, then released, then arrested again, and she was also executed. But before she died, Mary wrote a petition representing one of the earliest examples of victim advocacy for systemic justice reform in American history. Most accused people pleaded for their own lives and do so today. Mary knew she would die, so she wrote asking the court to change its methods. Quote, "I petition to your honors not for my own life, for I know I must die, but if it be possible, no more innocent blood may be shed." I think about what she did. She used her final voice not to save herself, but to advocate for the systemic change to protect future victims. She didn't ask for mercy. In my opinion, as her descendant, I'm sad she was so polite. But she asked for justice reform, and I wish that she had been less polite. These pictures here is that trip that we were in Salem, and we are touching Mary, Sarah, Leo, and Josh. We're all reaching and touching the cornerstone that is left on the property. There was a different home there during the arrest, but it's possible that she was down there hiding in the root cellar when they came to arrest her. It was her son's home. She was there recovering from her first jail stay when they came to get her. And so we were there and got to visit that area. Victims and survivor voices carry unique moral authority. When Mary spoke knowing she would die, her words echoed through centuries. When survivors of modern witch hunts speak, their testimony carries weight outside advocates cannot match. She understood individual cases can drive systemic change. We need laws, procedures, institutional reforms, and individual rescue, because individual rescue isn't enough. Her petition still exists in the saved records. Documentation matters. Recording testimony matters. Data matters. When modern advocates document cases, they're following Mary's model of creating records that will outlast us. I want to compare these two quotes that are separated from over 300 years and an ocean. And the first one is Mary Esty's quote. She says, "I know I must die. It's my appointed time, but if possible, no more innocent blood be shed, because undoubtedly it cannot be avoided in the way and course you go in. She said that to the magistrates. This past year, this documentary was recorded of survivors in the refugee camps in Ghana, and I was watching one of the videos, and this one really yanked at my heart, because this woman pictured here said, if they criminalize accusations, it will be a good thing for the ones that come after me. These women are separated by centuries and continents, but they're saying essentially the same thing. They're thinking about the systematic change that must happen. They're thinking about the victims who will come after them. And so this is why all of our work matters. The persecution hasn't ended, it's just moved. And the voices of victims across time are calling for the same thing: justice, change, and protection for those who come after. I also have accused witches in my tree from another line, my father's line. Mary Hale was tried in Boston in 1689. This little ancient writing there across the top of the tree is a clip out of a document that went for sale on auction, and I just happened to catch this auction was online and grab a picture of it. And it is a complaint against Mary Hale and her granddaughter Joanna, and it says, your grandmother is a witch and you're a witch, and we will soon prove it. So that was an accusation against Mary Hale and her granddaughter Joanna. And then after the Salem witch trials, Mary Hale's daughter Winifred Benham, the mother of Joanna, she was accused along with her daughter Winifred Jr. So Mary Hale and Winifred are my grandmothers. And it's just a picture of my father and his mother and her mother. This is us together, descendants of Mary Hale and Winifred Benham. You know this pattern. When accusations start, they spread through family trees. Children of accused witches become suspect. Stigma becomes inherited. Minors become exploited and vulnerable to all abuses. We saw it in colonial America. Children indentured out, growing up as outsiders. We see it now in refugee camps and communities in Africa and Asia. Our work bridges past and present through three core principles: shared history. We share this history. We have ancestors whose lives were destroyed by the same mechanisms with similar outcomes and trauma. The patterns of accusation, fear, and violence echo across centuries. Trauma carries forward, and the need for justice remains urgent. And what's different now is that we do have the resources, legal frameworks, and the power to intervene. And this effort is going to take all of us. And this is why End Witch Hunts exists, to honor the past and change the future. Our podcasts I mentioned earlier are on weekly. We have covered lots and lots of topics that fall under this umbrella of witchcraft accusation and harmful practices, and I invite you to check those out and listen to those experts. We have had lots of experts on. Here's just some of our experts, and we would love to have you come on and speak with us and share your expertise. Please reach out. We do collaborate for special initiatives whenever we can combine our platform with others. Like August 10th is World Day Against Witch Hunts. We try to team up with others. There is a week in March called Podcast-Thon. Podcasts all across the world are choosing a charity to talk about a cause. We use that to talk about witch hunts. And International Women's Day on March 8th is another great opportunity. We just launched a new course. It's called the Salem Witch Trials Daily, and it's on YouTube and it's free. And every day in 2026, we are going to bring you key details and discussions of the events of the Salem Witch Trials in 1692. And in 2027, we will continue to bring you the events of the following year, 1693 and beyond. And this isn't just a video series, it is a comprehensive course, research from primary sources by Josh Hutchinson and Sarah Jack. And we offer the daily videos, a weekly blog, and we also have a standard edition and student edition worksheet as a companion with the information every week. So we just launched that, but you can go at your own pace because they're on the podcast and they're on YouTube. I wanted to take a few moments and just differentiate between the posthumous gestures that are available. And then I'm going to mention the 2 exoneration projects that we had. And so I just wanted to kind of give some clarity. But the key distinctions are that a pardon says, you did it, but we forgive you. An exoneration says, you didn't do it. An absolution says, your moral debt is cleared. A proclamation is just a statement from somebody with authority, and an apology is I'm sorry. These pictures at the very bottom are buttons that represent our involvement in posthumous justice. There's Connecticut, Maryland, and Massachusetts right there. The state houses in both Connecticut and Massachusetts hold art that represent witch trials, yet not everyone has had their convictions cleared. And Connecticut, they unfortunately have a noose and a woman hanging to represent Alice Young. And then in Massachusetts, they have a giant, beautiful piece of art representing Judge Sewell's apology at church. Our exoneration efforts happened in about a year, and you can go to the website to learn more specifically, but it was a very large collaboration. It even included Liu Igwe meeting and talking to the legislators who proposed our resolution for us. And what else do I want to say? So the resolution that did pass the Senate with only 1 no vote. So this was really amazing. It went to the House at an 80% vote yes, but then once it got to the Senate, which was the final vote, only 1 person voted no. So that is very historic. And it covered had 34 names written in it. This happened the day before the 376th anniversary of Alice's execution and 1 day after the 331st anniversary of her the date of her death. And so it kind of brought the story full circle. This is the pictures that these are the pictures I wanted to share. At the table there is Senator Anwar and Representative Jane Garraby in the green. The group up at the top, that is the project. We were all there in the Senate when they voted yes, and that's Sarah, Josh, Mary, Beth, and Tony down there on the end. And this little groupie is Mary, Josh, Sarah, and Leo when we were traveling in Salem and Hartford together. So we do have goals left. Connecticut does not have a state memorial, and we know it needs one. It also needs a permanent witch trial history education exhibit. You cannot walk into a museum in the state of Connecticut and see a story of the witch trials. They may feature one of the executions in a broader storyboard of history, but there's nothing dedicated explaining the witch trial history of Connecticut. So we hope to get something together for that. And we have started developing a trail linking. There are some individual stones, like that very first picture I showed you that had Alice Young's name on it. A private citizen put that brick of that memorial brick in for her. There are a few of those. There's probably about 4 different names of victims throughout the state, but we would like to have a trail so people can go and visit the historic spots. And we have an online map started for that. Our project is not done in Massachusetts. In November, there was a hearing for Bill 1927, and if it passes, that will finish the exonerations in Massachusetts. There's 8 people who have not had their names cleared, and they were hanged between 48 and 89. And this is Representative Stephen Owens in the group of us who were at the hearing in person who gave testimony. Our last project that I want to just mention is a data research project. It is led by Mary Bingham, and she has made a very comprehensive YouTube playlist talking about multiple cases. There's like 64 cases that she covers in 3-minute videos, and we're tracking cases of spiritual and ritual abuse in the United States. And spiritual and ritual abuse includes exorcism that would cause harm, illness, injury, psychological trauma, or even death. SARA is unreported in the US and many nations, and we're actively watching. And unfortunately, the most recent case was a toddler on New Year's Day 2026. The mother shot her and said that she sent her to God. So that just happened, and a witness was there, unfortunately. You can use your sphere of influence and expertise to advocate. We recommend blogs and articles. Wherever you are, whatever you do, start conversations and create art. Please remember World Day Against Witch Hunts is August 10th. Mark your calendars now. If you go to witchhunts.org/day, you can learn about the history of World Day Against Witch Hunts and see some of the programs that we and other organizations have put out on that day. Do you have a project in mind? We'd love to work with you. Our areas of focus are awareness, education, exoneration, justice, memorialization, and research. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. It's really amazing to hear about the breadth of the work that you're doing. Absolutely incredible. So thank you so much. And thank you as well for joining us today. I know it's extremely late in the evening for you. So we have a little time now for some questions and discussion. So does anyone have a pressing question? I have a couple of things I'd like to discuss, but would anyone like to go first? Yeah, Miranda, please.
Thanks so much, Sarah and Josh. You know, the work that you guys are doing is really so impressive. Um, I was wondering, in terms of the documenting um, the SARA project, are there any themes that you've noticed coming out of those? You said 64 cases have been documented so far. I'm wondering, is it mostly young victims? Yeah, is there just anything that you've been noticing, geographical details of the victims, anything like that?
Yeah, we need to pin a map at which states we have cases in. They're scattered across the country, and they're always a vulnerable person. It's typically a child. There are multiple elders who have been victims, and occasionally it has been, just a peer, like an adult to an adult. But it is normally children that we catch. And um, a lot of times, more information comes out as they process the situation through court, but initially we'll catch in a news report a quote like this mother did with the child on January 1st, making a comment indicating that it was some sort of rescue or an exorcism. Multiple mothers who have killed their children have also expressed that they were going to come back, resurrect, that the child was going to resurrect.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just ask, is it associated with particular churches? Sorry, that's just a quick follow-up question.
No, these are all, there hasn't been anything directly associated with their church. Arlie Proctor, which is a case we've been following for a while, her grandfather was a preacher of a small independent church, but there hasn't been a denomination identified that has more than others. And some witnesses have commented that this person wasn't even religious. So this is speculation, but you speculate because it's like, why is this happening? But desperate parents, a desperate mother, a lot of people turn, to religion in times of desperation. And so they're possibly seeking out, and the exorcisms have been displayed for us in Hollywood. And I think it's acts of desperation. They perceive there's evil that needs taken out of their child.
Samuel, did you have a question, or I wasn't sure if you had your hand up?
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Charlotte and Sarah. That's a great presentation. And I was wondering if there's if your project is limited only to North America, and if it covers the other parts of the world, that would be great, because I'm a researcher who's interested in witchcraft accusations and beliefs. I'm not personally linked to any form of accusations. I'm not a descendant of people who were accused of witchcraft, but I've heard stories, especially from my research assistants, of people who were falsely accused of practicing witchcraft, and up to now, they haven't even received any form of justice. So maybe, Sarah, if possible, I would be happy to maybe collaborate if there are any possible ways of collaborating in also telling this kind of story from Southern Africa.
Yes, please email me. You can email me, sarah@endwitchhunts.org, or reach out to Charlotte or either of our organizations. What we can do is feature a conversation on the podcast, but we can also connect you with advocates that are working or other organizations that might be a good collaboration for you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you. Keith, would you like to ask a question?
A quick one. Yeah, me and Samuel work in Southern Africa, and I've seen tons of your podcasts. Very interesting. So what can we learn, from your history and the experts that you've spoken to in the context of our own dilemma in Southern Africa, where some of these issues are currently happening, as early as last week, where the child abducted in Zimbabwe, suspected for ritual purposes. What can we learn from you? What can we grasp?
Well, we have to keep using our voices, and the more authority that then uses their voices, we have to speak to their innocence, because the world does not value their innocence. And so we have to not relent on that. And I think I don't know if that is helpful enough, but the more we contextualize and put the data together and share what we're learning and find, streamlined ways to share it, say it to different groups different ways, but it's all the same story being experienced in different communities, and we have to keep talking about it.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Keith. That's a really great question. And it relates to something I was going to ask, which was about what people's response, and I mean by people, I mean the general public that you're reaching with your podcasts or through your activities. What's their response been to the linking of these historical accusations and witch hunts to the contemporary abuses that you're recording as well?
Part of our experience as Americans and having this organization in America is to bring Americans, bring their minds to the reality of what happened historically and what's happening now. So you get the mixed bag. Some people aren't shocked. Some people are shocked. When we were testifying for the Connecticut accused, we were having to convince some of the legislators that they were innocent, that they were not using witchcraft to cause harm. The conviction in the American colonies was diabolical. They said that there was a diabolical pact that they were convicting them of, and we were having to convince the legislators that that wasn't true. In Massachusetts, we're finishing up exonerations. They've already been exonerating for hundreds of years. It's not so much convincing them that they were innocent, but that the people outside Salem matter. But I've noticed in October, there's a higher interest in witches generally. The witch culture, pop culture, fiction, the witch that people enjoy as a fun monster, that's all around, and people are more receptive at that time. But it's so important for us to keep talking about this all throughout the year and pull it out of that context so that they can see the humans that they are. It is very upsetting to some people at the presentations when they realize, these stories, they see the humans behind the stories. So that's a really big part of our intention in our work here, is to help Americans understand that what happened here isn't strange, or we don't know what happened in Salem. We know exactly what happened, and this is what it is. It was horrible, and it's still happening. They are also usually very happy to hear that there are other organizations and communities working on the ground. We share as much as we can about that, and that also helps build the picture out and helps people realize. But there's so much left to tell so that people understand.
Thank you. Are there any final questions before we draw this to a close? Anything else?
No, that was a good presentation for you, Sarah. And I'm the son of a witch doctor, so I resonate with some of pseudo accusations by individuals of me actually being some sort of like a witch. So yeah, thank you very much for the good work, and looking forward to seeing what else you produce.
Yeah, it's been really exciting hearing about everything that you've been doing, and it's wonderful, and to hear about your plans as well for the coming year. And I hope that you'll be able to work with us in the international network as well on some of those. One thing we found very powerful has been the photography exhibition that we pulled together, and the responses to that were incredible, actually. The people who did visit it, and perhaps there's a way we can collaborate on that aspect of your work in the coming year. So thank you so much. Okay, we're going to end there. But we will have a seminar each month, so we'll be putting some more information out on the website and through our mailing lists. So I hope that you'll be able to join us for one of those. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you again to Sarah and to Josh. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Fantastic. Thank you so
you
much.
can stop recording.
I will. Yeah, I'm just doing it.
Oh
I'm
my
a bit
goodness.
slow. It's fine. I'll edit the recording
Okay.
anyway, so we cut out.
I could not